If you are a married believer trying to navigate this intimacy thing without shame, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because you are in the right place. Oftentimes, when you are dealing with the saints, especially the saints, sometimes they don't even like to Google their information. Bless your heart. It was okay to feel good. It was okay to be held. When Adam saw Eve for the first time, he was like, my girl. This is Tammy paraphrasing. He was like, you are bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. You look good. He desired her. I had a level of awareness with some areas of my body. And I knew that if they touched me in this particular spot, that I was going to lose all my good senses. Okay. And it's because I had a relationship with my body. I understood what felt good. I understood what felt too good. And it allowed me the opportunity to create a boundary so that I would not cross that line. If you're married, why are you not affirming each other? Why are you not praying together? A lot of times, some of the issues and the closeness that or the disconnection that you feel can be resolved in prayer. The goal is that you should always be practicing something to engage with your body.
Welcome to the space where we tell our truth. Testimony, healing, breaking shame loose. Learning our bodies and walking by faith. Intimacy God's way, right here is the place. Sex Ed for Saints. Mondays at 6. We believe in the power of the story. Not just pain, but redemption and glory. Faith in the rhythm, hearts in the mix. Trust in educators. Mondays at 6. We're overcoming by the word of these testimonies. People getting free when we speak what's holy. Healing in our hearts, shame starts to split. Every story told, another chain gets stripped. Learning our bodies, learning His way. Intimacy and faith, walking day by day. This is where we heal, where the truth sticks. Sex Ed for Saints, Mondays at 6.
Hey, what's the lesson we will learn today? What's the lesson we will learn today? What's the lesson we will learn today? On Sex Ed for Saints, it's time to party. Hey, what's up, beautiful people? It's your girl, Coach Tammy, in the building. And today, listen, we're going to be talking about some things. We're going to be doing a continuation of what we spoke about last week, where it comes to identity and sexuality. Because listen, when life has fragmented you, what God has joined together, those messages, they didn't come from everywhere. Listen, they came from everywhere. They came from culture, they came from community, they came from church, they came from relationships, they came from your experiences. And so, when we experience things, when we have gone through some trials and tribulations, sometimes those things go unaddressed, at least the parts of you that you don't want to talk about. And the reason why we don't talk about it is because when you only cater to one part of what God has created together, there will be parts of you that will still feel broken, and you don't want to talk about the broken parts. And so what happens is they begin to lay dormant. They just begin to just wait there. You start focusing on all the things that people can see and not what's really going on inside of you. And sometimes we hide behind, some of the issues that we're struggling with, and we don't want to hide anymore. We want to bring those things to the surface. And so, I hope that these episodes are opportunities for you to be able to check in with yourself and ask yourself, am I sitting with myself and really understanding some things? Am I sitting with myself and really understanding wholeness and what that means for my intimate life? Yes. And so, we don't want to stay in that place. We don't want to stay in that state of brokenness. We just want you to be able to name what you're experiencing and, experience wholeness from getting the healing from all of that. And so we're going to keep talking about things that make you uncomfortable. And today I want to dive into a little bit of sensuality today, because sensuality is where I believe that healing starts to get real. Yes. Sensuality is, it's one of those things that, it opens up the door, because this is where your awareness levels, this is where an awareness begins for you, your comfort levels and what it is that you are uncomfortable with. You're learning all about that through sensuality. And I know I'm not the only one who has, ever struggled with somebody or struggled with, sensuality. This is one of the things that I had to learn in the later years, because, a lot of people, they do struggle. And I get questions about it all the time, about sensuality. I get questions about, the various things that people are experiencing. And one of the things that I do for my show is I do have anonymous questions of people who would usually ask, something that they're concerned about. And oftentimes when you are dealing with the saints, especially the saints, sometimes they don't even like to Google their information, bless your heart. But I have created opportunities for you to be able to reach out and ask your questions anonymously. And so if you do have questions that you ever want answered on this podcast, we will answer them, whether it's myself or if I have a guest on. This month, it's just going to be me. You're going to get me this month, okay? But if I do have guests on the show, myself and my guests, we will answer your questions live. If it's just me, it's just gonna be me. But you could go on to the Marriage Lab LLC, which is my Instagram. You in my bio there is a link, and in that link you can click on it to ask your questions anonymously, and we'll pick through questions that relate to the topic of whatever it is that we're talking about, and we'll try to answer them like that. And so that's a little bit about how that works. If you don't want to go on Instagram and you wanted to send me an email, you can always do that as well at yourmarriagelab@gmail.com as well. Okay. And so I do want to read a question that I did see pertaining to, sensuality, the topic that we're dealing with for today. And it says, I've always been taught that being sensual is the same thing as being seductive or inappropriate, even in marriage. The word itself makes me uncomfortable. How has that affected me? And how do I even begin to change that? Sorry, y'all. So listen, I love this question. I wish I did have more context so that I could understand exactly how it impacted you. We actually would have to sit down and have a conversation and just, walk through some things that I can give you from like a coaching perspective. But one of the things is that, many people are not comfortable when it comes to sensuality. Yes. That's because we live in a society where, the world is teaching you to be aware of your body and its senses is absolutely wrong. And in fact, it triggers something within your body. It triggers you. And so you're very aware of when something comes up and it makes you uncomfortable, just like you said. And so your body recognizes that discomfort. And so that is what keeps a lot of people bound, is that, they experience the discomfort in their body with their body recognizing something. And in their mind, because of the messages that they're hearing, they feel like, oh, this might be a bad thing. And so I'm just going to shut it down completely. The issue with that is when you shut down your level of awareness, you're actually shutting down your body and you're training your body how to respond. And so, when things come up in your body, it's just your body's way of telling you what it needs and how you need to be cared for. But in your mind, you think it's bad. And so you're like, oh no, I can't need that. Yes. And so I can't want that. And so I'm not going to want it at all. Go away. It's like you give it a little spanking and your body remembers that. And when you get married, then now you're like, oh, okay, now all these things can begin to surface again. And unfortunately, it does not work like that. It's a process. It is an absolute process. But the way that you would change that is to start where you are right now. Start with the discomfort and start learning, because healing doesn't come when you feel ready. Yes, it comes when you are ready to change and change your mindset and get a deeper level of understanding for all the things that you have been experiencing. And so you are already on your way. And so now that we've dealt with some of that discomfort, I want to talk to you about what sensuality, what it actually is, because and once you understand it, I think you're going to wonder why nobody is telling you sooner. Yes. Listen, when it comes to being sensual, we are all sensual. First, let me say this. Just because you are born, you are human. Because you are born and because you are human, you are already born a sexual being. We spoke about last week how, the identity is who you are. This is you actually being born. The only prerequisite for you to be the identity of God is for you to be born. Yes. That's the only prereq. Nothing else exists. You just needed to be a body and you are automatically God's identity. The way that is expressed is the how that identity is expressed is the sexuality part. That's the Genesis 1:27, where God says male and female, he created them. It answers, how do I relate? Yes. And so when we introduce sensuality to the picture, now we're talking about how you experience it all, how you experience everything. This is how you're living out the identity and the sexuality through your actual physical body. Yes. Now we are talking about, how do I feel? How do I feel? I want you to think about it this way. Identity is knowing your name, and sexuality is how you introduce yourself. And then you have sensuality is actually showing up in the room and being fully present, being fully alive, and being fully in your body. Yes. And I know some of you are thinking, like, isn't expression and experience the same thing? And I hear you, but there is a difference, because you can express something without ever truly experiencing it. Yes. A woman can actually, she can say the right words and she can do the right things and perform the right moves and still feel absolutely nothing on the inside. And now, if you have ever been there in a marriage, go ahead and raise your hand right now, because there are moments where you might not have been present. Seasons where you might not have been present, but you existed, you lived. You and your spouse might have been in the same house, but you might not have been communicating at the time. You were there, but not fully present in your mind, body, and spirit. Yes. And so a lot of things, when you are in a space like that, it turns out to be, now you start moving and operating out of obligation. You start operating out of obligation when you're not present. And so you begin just doing things out of the motion rather than just fully being there. And I want you to think about this, because, you know, when we think about babies, when we think about newborns, nobody exactly has to tell them how to feel. When they want to be warm, they reach for you. When they're hungry, they want you. When they want to be cared and nurtured for, they cry out for you. Yes. These are some of the things that infants do. Even babies, even when you're born, even toddlers, even as they grow and they experience things, they are being sensual, and nothing about that is sexual. And I think every time, I don't want to say every time, most times when I'm talking to somebody, when you're talking about anything that says sensual in it, the mindset always goes to sexual. And when I say sexual, it always goes to sex. And that's not the case. The senses is just being aware and engaging with your environment, engaging with your senses, using the body that God gave you to engage with the world that's outside of you. Yes, that's what sensory is. And that develops beginning in the womb. That's how intentional God is. He's created you to begin engaging with your senses from you are in the womb. But this is the thing. There are so many people who have been disconnected that it's not even normal. People are learning to disconnect from their senses. And then something throughout their life might have, added to those elements that causes it to change, whether it came from their home, their environment, their culture, their relationships, whether they have, the way that they understood religion, their society. It's whatever the messages were that they were taught growing up about their body teaches them how to receive their body. Yes, it could have been from not having conversations. Parents are not having conversations with their kids about sex. And it's not even just about not having the conversations. It's making things up. I was talking to somebody the other day, and one of the things that she said is that she was having a conversation with her mom, and, she never had the conversation. Her mom told her that, if you get a hickey on your neck, you're going to get cancer. I have heard people say the craziest things. And it's one of those things where you're not even, it's not even about you not being on, you're making stuff up. Completely making things up, and we're treating kids and not having conversations, and then wonder why they grow up confused, because we're too afraid to have conversations because our experiences have been so bad, or we're so uncomfortable that we don't want to talk. And that is an issue, y'all, because you are raising dysfunctional children. You're raising children to be disconnected from the bodies that God created. And from the last time I checked, when God created a body, he said that everything was good. But we are turning it into something bad. And now the association with the body and how it functions and how I function around my body, all of a sudden doesn't feel good. But y'all, sensuality is just awareness. You get to experience God, yourself, and others through the body that he created intentionally. Listen, God could have made us differently, but he did not. He could have made us emotionless. He could have made us like robots. Listen, we live in an AI society where, the future is happening so quickly right now. There might be a point in time where we might not even be able to recognize whether or not we're human or not. But the point is, he could have made us all like that. He could have made us all to function one particular way. But no, he didn't. He wanted us to be able to experience the world around us, so that we could experience him. And so he allowed us to be able to have ears so that we can hear. He allowed us to be able to have skin. I've been doing this the whole time, right? The whole time I've been here, I've been engaging with my hands because I like how that feels. Yes, he gave me the ability to do that. He gave me eyes so that I could see all the beauty that's around me. When I think about Adam and Eve in the garden, that had to have been the most beautiful experience ever. I mean, they were in the middle of pleasure, okay? They were in the Garden of Eden. Eden means Edna in the Hebrew, and Edna means pleasure. He placed them in a pleasurable place, which means that he wanted them to be able to experience pleasure. That's where pleasure comes from. Came from God. Gave it as a gift. And in that garden, I'm sure they were able to smell everything, every fragrance. They had mouths so that they could taste. Listen, all of these various things is senses. All of this, it makes it sensual. Yes. All of this is what allows us opportunities to be closer to God. And so I want to read scripture for a little bit. I'm going to read Genesis 2:7. And in Genesis 2:7, I'm going to read, this is where God formed man with his own hands, and breathed life into him. Genesis 2:7 says, "And the Lord God formed man out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." Listen, the breath activated the senses. The moment life entered, so did the capacity to be able to experience God. Man, that's so good. That is so good. He breathed in the very life. And from that moment on. Yes. And then when we go down to 2:9, it says, "And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, and the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil." I want to talk about this really quickly because God made the trees. He made everything pleasing to the eye. He made, the trees. He made the food. The eyes was good to food, right? And all of this happened before sin, before shame even entered the picture. God had already designed everything to look so beautiful, to taste so good. Pleasure through the senses that he gave. It was God's idea, y'all. It was his idea for us to be able to experience it first. Yes. And I want to go down a little bit to Genesis 2:25. Let's see. And in 2:25, it says, "And they were both naked, and the man and his wife, and were not ashamed." Listen. They were naked and they felt no shame. Could you imagine? I mean, I'm just thinking about it right now. Yes. Could you imagine living in a society where there is no shame around nakedness? I'm writing a book right now. It's called Go to Bed Naked, where it is, helping individuals to understand sexuality and sensuality through the lens of God, because we should be able to go to bed naked without sexualizing every single thing and just being in touch with our sensual selves. But y'all, we too immature to be there right now. We got all this body dysmorphia and all the shame that's attached to our bodies and all the things. But thinking about God's idea was not for all of that to happen. The idea that he had in mind for us was to have absolutely no shame around the way that we were experiencing the world at that time, because there was no sin. That was God's original design. There was no shame. There was no shutting down. There was no performance. It was just being fully present with God in the garden. What a beautiful experience that might have been. It was okay to feel good. It was okay to be held. It was okay to experience desire. When Adam saw Eve for the first time, he was like, my girl. This is Tammy paraphrasing. He was like, you are bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. You look good. He desired her. Yes. And that was not a bad thing, because God called it what? Good. You're allowed to agree that the way that we were experiencing life was a good thing. God don't want shame. He don't want shame. And so how did it get there? It got there, Genesis 3. This is where everything shifted. Yes, their eyes were opened and they knew they were naked and they covered themselves. But here is where I want you to catch this. Because when God came looking for them, first of all, they hid. They hid in the garden. And Adam said he was afraid because he was naked. But God didn't say that. God didn't say that he was ashamed. Who told them that? Who told them that there was shame? God didn't even confirm it. He didn't even confirm it. He gave them comfort because they were so shameful. He did that because they went and they got the fig leaves and they did all of that because they were embarrassed. But God ain't never said, he still at that point did not call their nakedness shame. They didn't get that from God. They didn't get it from him. Who told you were naked? Who told you? Who told you that you were to experience shame? Isn't that the way that we live today? Because we still are struggling to get back to that place where God is saying, I want you to understand that you are fully okay in your nakedness. Like, this is something that I desire for you, to be able to understand the original design. God did not introduce shame, even though they experienced it. God, instead, he covered them. He gave them mercy. And here we are. Here we are today. God never said that your body was wrong. He never said nakedness was shameful. God asked who told you that. He asked you who told you that. So when we're around here walking around in shame for some things that we've done in our past, or some things that we have in our mindset about sexuality and all the things, who told you that? Who was the source telling you that everything that God is telling you is wrong? Because God did not create intimacy. He did not create you as a sexual being to be ashamed of the body that he gave you. He wanted you to embody him, to be able to experience the life around him. Yes. And so I know some of you are wondering, like, okay, Tammy, when does sensual become sexual? When does it become sexual? Because it didn't come from nowhere. It didn't come from anywhere. It came from somewhere. The reason why we are experiencing the things that we're experiencing is because we're thinking about, well, why do I feel so strongly about this thing in my body if it's not even a sexual thing? And it's because desire came in. Yes. What turns sensuality into something sexual is when desire enters the picture. But desire is not a bad thing. Desire is good because God allows us the ability to have desire, because that's what keeps us longing after our spouses. It's the ability to have the thing that keeps you longing for you to even build the desire to be chased by other people or to engage with other people. It's to say, man, if you're single and you have that urge, I'm like, man, I desire to be married one day. You're going to have desires. That's what it comes with. Because your body is designed to long. Your body is designed to attract. That's what the body is designed to do. And I think that we get confused because the moment we begin feeling a little bit of something, we're like, oh God, it's not okay. No, it's absolutely okay. This is you being aware of your senses. And it is so important to understand your body and how it functions, because when you do that, you are teaching and training your body how to respond. Listen, there was a time in my life where I was dating, as in celibacy. I was dating, and I just knew I was not going to mess up my celibacy journey during that time. Yes. And so I had a level of awareness with some areas of my body. I knew that if I was dating some people, and I knew that if they touched me in this particular spot, that I was going to lose all my good senses. Okay. And so I knew that nobody was allowed to touch me there. It's because I had a relationship with my body. I understood what felt good. I understood what felt too good. And it allowed me the opportunity to create a boundary so that I would not cross that line. Yes. So if I did not have that level of awareness, guess what would have happened? I probably would have let somebody touch me there, and I would have slipped and fell very easily, because that's still my spot. Well, at least one of them anyway. You know what I'm saying? And so I had to understand that. And I think when you build a sensual relationship with yourself, and I'm not talking about in a way that violates God. I'm talking about in a way where you are learning things that you should absolutely already know. You are developing the language and the knowledge to be able to communicate that to your spouse. If you do plan on getting married, and if you are married, you're able to connect and communicate with your spouse all the things that you need them to know. And this is why sensuality is important, y'all. I want to wrap this up because we have various levels of senses. And on this one, I'm going to talk about sound. I'm going to try to brush through this because I don't want to be here all day. But listen, your voice has so much power that you probably never even thought about. Every time that you speak, every time you sing, every time you worship, every time you do all the things, you are getting closer to God. And that is where your confidence is built. You know, I want to tell a story real quick because when I was younger, you know, as I spoke about earlier, and I don't know if it was this episode or a future one or a previous one, but I was in a relationship with a boy. Yeah. And I was very young. So this is a very young relationship. I was probably about 13 or 14 years old. And it was during Christmas time. And I remember confronting him because I was like, you didn't buy me anything for Christmas. And this boy absolutely broke up with me. Okay. He broke up with me. And not only did he break up with me, he was like, I'm breaking up with you for this girl over here. Okay. And we were in the back of a truck. We were deep in a truck. Okay. And we were riding around because they were dropping us home. It was probably about 8 of us in the back of the truck. And when he broke up with me, I didn't feel any particular way about it. I was fine. I thought I was good. I was like, we gonna ride this ride. I was talking to the people around me because at that point, me and him, we were not communicating anymore. But something happened, right? We were in the back of the truck and they played a song. But it was not just a song. It was our song. And when I tell you the level of shift that happened in that moment, I could not catch myself. I could not stop crying. I was like, it was like the heavy cry. And I'm like, oh my God, like what is happening here? Why am I crying like this? Like, why am I feeling out of control right now? Like in front of all these people. And all of a sudden I noticed everybody trying to console me. Like, what's going on? And as the song played, I just could not contain myself. And I realized that the song triggered me because I remembered that he had dedicated the song to me. And now the song was on, and, the irony of it coming on in a moment where he broke up with me, like, my goodness, like if time was the enemy, it would have been that right there. But after I got dropped home that day, what I realized is that, I was, whenever I wanted to feel a particular thing, I would play that song. And I would play that song whenever I wanted to feel sad. And I would look in the mirror and I would cry. And I would look in the mirror so I could see myself crying, which is the craziest thing. I don't know why people do that. But I did that until I no longer felt what I felt for him. And I probably was like 13 or 14 years old, doing this, not having the language, but not understanding that I'm using my senses to become aware. The sense of sound woke something up in me because sound creates memory, and the memory triggered something between us. And because I was triggered by the memory, it created the moment that I had then. And I use senses to be able to get rid of it. I use more sound. Sound is not just something that you're listening to. It's something that happens to you. It's something that's going on within your body. There are things happening and shifting when you are experiencing sound. And so when we're talking about senses and we're talking about sound and, we're talking about, I'm going to wrap it up because time is going. When we're talking about touch and all the things, listen, this is your body's way of engaging and experiencing things around you, right? If the only voice your body has ever heard is the one that has shamed it, then your body is going to learn to be quiet. And a body that has learned to be quiet cannot worship freely, cannot experience sound freely. You can't love freely. You can't give freely. You can't do all the things. And so it's incredibly important to understand how you can engage with your body. And so I want to just give you some practical ways that you can engage with your senses as it relates to sound, even touch, because one of the things that I used to do was listening to worship. Worship is so good. It's so important. Understanding worship does some things. Worship releases hormones. Worship releases those things that bond you back to God. Worship creates a sense of peace, a sense of safety within you. It allows you to feel calm. It allows you to feel safe. Worship does so many things. It just bonds you to God. So many things can get done in worship. And I say this because I am a worshiper. I worship all day. I can turn to worship at any moment, at any given time. I absolutely love worshiping. That's one of the things that I do. And so worship is one. Speaking scripture out loudly, affirmations. I think we underestimate the power of a good affirmation. Yes. If you're married, why are you not affirming each other? Why are you not praying together? A lot of times, some of the issues and the closeness or the disconnection that you feel can be resolved in prayer, because prayer is a level of communication. It's a level of closeness. It brings you together. And when you and your spouse are praying together, there are some things happening. There are some things shifting the atmosphere. And sometimes we're not doing enough praying with our spouses. Okay. When you are sitting in silence, sometimes I'm a quiet driver. Sometimes when I'm sitting in my car, sometimes I'll just sit and I'll bask in the moments of silence. And I think that that's also important too. Create a playlist. Even if you're somebody who needs to hear a sound, if you need something, create something that gives you peace. The goal is that you should always be practicing something to engage with your body. to be in touch with your body, because the more that you are aware, the more that you are aware of your experiences, the more that you can communicate that, the more you can heal the things that you have that have been impacted you. When you think about things like touch is not just something that is used for foreplay. Touch is a foundational framework for something that is broken. There are a lot of things that happens when you are able to touch somebody. Listen, I have not always been a toucher, and one of the things that I still struggle with to this day is affection. And sometimes, it's difficult for me to be affectionate with even my children. I have to be intentional about touching and touching my husband and making sure that we are interacting with touch, because it's something that does not come naturally to me. But because I know that, because I have that sense of awareness, it allows me the opportunity to know that I need to be more aware when I am in relationship. It allows me the opportunity to know, like, hey, I know that I struggle with touch right over here. So now I need to be more intentional about touching. Yes. And so I do things, right? Like when we're driving in the car and my husband is driving, I will intentionally touch his thigh or something while he's driving. I'll give him a shoulder rub. I'll be intentional about touching, because I know that that's one of the areas where I struggle the most. Even when it comes to my children, I have to be more intentional about hugging them, creating spaces where I can create closeness. And all of these things is formed by understanding your body and understanding dynamics. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Listen, be more intentional about engaging with your body senses, engaging with all the things, because this is where you're going to learn and grow. And so this week, as we wrap up, I want you to just be real practical and find something that you can do this week to be more sensual when it comes to sound. Are you going to pick a worship song, or speak scripture, speak life, affirm yourself? Proverbs 10:11 is a good one. It says that my mouth is a fountain of life. My voice has power. I speak life into myself and everyone around me. Listen, affirm that to yourself all day. My voice has power. Yes. Check your sound diet. What is it that you're putting in? What conversations are you having? What are you scrolling past as you listen? What are you doing to be intentional about building yourself up? Yes. Even when it relates to touch, like try some non-sexual touches. Yes. Hug somebody a little bit more. Listen, dopamine's released. You hug somebody for about 20 seconds, it's going to release a whole bunch of dopamines. Well, oxytocin. It's going to release a whole bunch of oxytocin, which is going to create a bond of closeness. And so hug your children, hug your spouse, create opportunities for yourself to be close to yourself. And in that, you'll get closer to God. And so I just want to thank you all for joining me for this episode today. Listen, sensuality is not a sin, y'all. It's awareness. And having the awareness of how God designed you to be and also to experience him is a beautiful thing. And I want you to keep that in mind as we move on through the series, the sensuality series. Listen, God never created you to be ashamed of your body. He created you to understand it. And so if you have enjoyed this episode, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share on the Sex Ed for Saints podcast. Y'all, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, we're going to say bye. Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Now, friends, if this conversation blessed you, do me a favor. Take a moment to like, leave a review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, because you already know we need more faith-filled, real conversations like this in the world. And listen, I know you heard a gem today, something that made you pause, something that made you think, something that made you say, woo, this was for me. But friend, it might not be just for you. So go ahead and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Send it to a friend, a spouse, a sister in Christ, somebody who's been feeling stuck or silent in this area. Let's spread healing, freedom, and truth one conversation at a time. And until next time, we're going to get candid, but keep it God. We'll talk to you soon. Bye. Let's sing this up.
space where hearts get free. Learning our bodies with holy therapy. God wrote desire with love in the mix. Sex ed for saints, Mondays are saints. This the space where hearts get free. Learning our bodies with holy therapy. God wrote desire with love in the mix. Sex ed for saints, Mondays are 6. Tune in Mondays at 6. Come and sing this love. Oh, I come and sing this love. Oh, tune in Mondays at 6. Come and sing this love. Oh, let's sing this love. This is the space where hearts get free. Learning our bodies with holy therapy. God wrote desire with love in the mix. Sex ed for saints, Mondays at 6. This is the space where hearts get free. Learning our